So, let's get started with some announcements. I also want to thank everyone who's here for the live stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the live stream. I really appreciate seeing you guys here and appreciate it when you guys come. My mic seems a bit far away, isn't it? Checking my levels. Okay, so the summer challenge will be due, I think I already announced the due date, didn't I? Will be due the 30th of September. So you guys have a little over 3 weeks to work on it. The October challenge is really fun. It's creature design. If you guys want to start drafting some, mild, just general research on the side while you complete this challenge, if you're trying both, you can start. I briefed you guys on it last class. So the sunset silhouette one that I just did with the beach and the aurora lights, the one I just posted today. Sorry about that. I forgot. I left it on unlisted and forgot to put it on public. But I briefed you guys on it last class, and basically it's a creature design embodying the changing of the seasons. Not so much the changing of the seasons, just like a character that is an elemental, a creature. And it's just one simple character in an environment. And I'll be posting a inspirational folder soon. I feel like you guys do need that. It really helps you guys generate ideas and work closer to my vision rather than, bunch of ideas from different realms and kind of not reined in so much. So that officially will be launched October 1st. I'll send out the brief as well as the resource pack for that. That's what we've been doing for years. And other than that, there's not much else for announcements. If you want to join the current summer challenge, you still have time. It's the Summer 2020 Design Challenge. And read through it, please. If you're benefiting from this channel and you guys are tuning in and you're appreciating these hour-long educational videos, please consider joining me on Patreon. You can join for higher tiers for educational resources, as well as lower tiers if you just want to just send some general support our way. The apprentice assignment was just sent out today. It's really cool. It's really fun. I feel like the resource pack it's got a really beautiful vision behind it, and I do as well do seasonal or festive challenges and homework for the apprentice students as well. So I also get a common question a lot all the time about the apprenticeship, mostly through just Instagram or Facebook, people messaging me. The apprenticeship is not equivalent to the private tutoring. Private tutoring is more expensive because it's one-on-one. You record all your sessions. The curriculum is tailored to you. It's just all about you, one individual person on a live call with me. So we're on a phone call with a screen share. So it's very different from Patreon because Patreon obviously is not as expensive. But you do get a lot of educational material, including the assignments, the private critiques, the community behind it, the rewards, should I do any personal art. It's been a really crazy year, from COVID to moving to renovations to, it's not even renovation. Renovation is like a light term for what happened in my house. We gutted the house. So I have not had any time for personal work, and I didn't get my office finished until like just basically painted and bring a chair inside from the garage till like May. So I've been really behind on personal work, but I do have stuff in the works, building some nice resources for myself. So there might be some rewards upcoming, but I'm still giving away brushes to apprentices. I'm still looking at the work, I'm still assigning. So if you guys want to, and you guys, the common question I get is it, is it for advanced students only? Is it only for really good artists? Is it only for, do I have to have a certain skill range? No, you don't have to be extremely skilled. Obviously, I hope you've gotten your foot in the door with at least using Photoshop. From there, the assignments, there are easier assignments, alternative homework you can do that are studies. And then there are the obviously full illustration assignments that I send out. And those are portfolio building. So again, Patreon is low pressure portfolio building for all skill levels. So just to get that out there, make sure it's clear, and it is not private tutoring. So let's look at this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this piece because the main piece that I'm doing today is this one. But the issues here are, I can't overlook them. So when we're looking at a face from the side, nearly all faces, so profile, sprifle, profile face, sprifle. Okay, so hopefully we can find something that's not covered in makeup and crap. So there's this one. Come on. Yeah, see? Fuck you, deposit photos. Look at what I just did. Look at that. Fuck your watermark. Fuck you. Oh, nice. Closed eyes. Very nice. Very nice. Shutterstock can also SMD. And then finally, I'm sure we're gonna run across what is it called? Pink Terrace as well. So I'm trying to find one that from a distance doesn't, a boy's face is fine too. And then we've got another most photos. I don't even, oh, thank you. That's all I needed. Okay. So I'm going to open all these up so you guys can just see them here on the side. What you're doing basically when you're doing trace over diagrams, so this person, your diagnosis is that you don't understand the structure of the face. When you do trace over diagrams, which is a video in my history, so go look at it, search the term trace over diagram in my video history. So go to my page, click on videos, there's a little search icon, a little search bar on the top right corner. Go to that and look up trace over diagrams, okay? Basically what you're missing here is the fact that the bone structure, you need to represent that the bone structure, this big brow bone here, sticks out so that we can have some kind of umbrella effect on top of the eye to shield it from the sun. Everything about the eye is about the sun. Write that back to me. That'll help you remember a lot of these components, and they're functional components to the eye. So we have the eyeball itself, so the eyeball proper, and then we've got the eyelids, which don't, it's not eyeball and then eyelids. Eyelids are not this tape that sits on top of the eye. They got a thickness to it. They're thick. All right, and so they sit just like that. They're thicker. They got a fat to them. So technically it's eyeball, eyelids. They sit in front of, all right? So everything about the eye is about the sun. So you got lashes, which create shade. Eyelids, which create shade. They're upper and lower eyelids. Then you've got pupils that dilate and shrink, and that means that they are also instruments for the light. They also work with the light. They either let in more light or let in less light. When you enter a dark room, your pupils dilate. I believe yes, they dilate. That's the term. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. And they get bigger to let in more light. Yes, that's the science, as much science as I know. And then when you enter a really bright room, they shrink to limit the amount of light entering the eye. There's enough light bouncing around. If you let in too much light, the eye gets damaged. So that's why when those people got stuck in the mines and they brought them and they finally saved them after 3 or 6 weeks, I forgot, they had to, as soon as they popped right out of the mines, they covered everyone's eyes up. And these people were taken and rehabilitated in dark rooms because they could not be exposed to sunshine like that right away. They would have lost their eyesight. They would have been in extreme pain. They got used to the dark of the underground, which is horrifying that they lived in so much darkness for so long. But they were rehabilitated, and slowly the rooms were brightened up over a couple weeks or a couple days. I'm not entirely sure of the specifics, but it's a cool, interesting documentary to go find That's how they, that's how they worked with that. The eye is a wonderful instrument, and it works with the light, and everything about the eye has to do with the light and the sun. So if you remember those functional components and the story behind them, the best way to teach a student is to tell them, why the science is the way it is. Then they understand that, there's a functional requirement that I need to meet in order to paint a realistic eye. It's not just about this barrage of anatomy you have to remember topically, and hopefully you accidentally draw a good eye. For some reason I thought I was muted this whole time. Shat myself. So what we have to do is remember all of that and apply it in here. Then there's the basics of rotation in physics. So when you have an eye that's front view and the eyelids sit tight around it, you got the inner and outer anchors for the eyelids. From side view, so let's see, this is the symmetry line. A symmetry line means that we took this eye and we like I'm trying to make a pop sound. We just pop them apart. Okay, we just separated them. The symmetry line is the start, and then we rotated this from the side view. What do we see had we cut the eye off in half, eyelids and all, cross section from the side? All right, so the eyelid sits like this and around. We would have seen that the pole, this eastern pole, let's call it, all right, would have been right here had we rotated the eye this way. All right, so this is now the symmetry line. Okay, right. Oh, I didn't change it. This is now the symmetry line. Symmetry line, symmetry line. Meaning that we only get half of everything. We get that thickness of the eye, we get only half. And then we bring in the cylinder of the brow bone and sit it right on top. And then we remember that the eyelid gets pinched into this little area right here. A while ago I did a critique hour just about eyes, and I literally zoomed up to a butt crack of a model on Portrait Studio. So there was the butt crack, and I zoomed in on it. I zoomed in all the way, and I showed you how, the butt crack is basically, and you guys never forgot about it, and that's good. It's like a trench. It's like a butt crack. It's like right here, all right? A bunch of flesh gets stuck inside a butt crack. All right? It's just a butt crack, all right? It's not that big. It's not that scary. And it's a very, very simple, silly little way to remember that the trench has to be there. It's not there if you are Asian or if you have hooded eyes. Asian eyes have fat that fills this whole area in, a big old deposit of fat that fits in right in here. And so we end up getting eyes that do that. All right, so just look up side view of Asian eye, and the eyes do that. And it's basically the same on the bottom. There's more deposit of fat down here. Okay, so those are the requirements. There is the fat of the lower eyelids as well, and Caucasian eyes have them, so I'll just use the green to designate fat. So right here, there's some fat. And then there's sometimes extra little light fat on Caucasian eyes, or anything that is not strictly Asian has some kind of hoodedness to it, like Hawaiian eyes or Hawaiian, like indigenous people, Native American faces, stuff like that. They usually have a hooded eye or Asian-esque eye because they just had technically migrated years and years ago over the Bering Strait when it was still unthawed, and just came over. Basically, Native Americans were once Asians, from Hawaii to South American to North American. All right, so it's either Asian or the rest of the world. I'm joking. So when we look at this piece right here, we can already see like a crap ton of mistakes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna shrink this so I don't feel like I'm kind of just like, not zoomed out even if I tried to zoom out. When we look at this piece right here, we can see that the bump of the forehead is adjacent to or corresponds with where nature placed the eyebrow. You don't get an eyebrow. Take a look at this. Everybody get ready to laugh, because laughter helps us. Laughter is good for education. So we don't have a brow bone and then have the eyebrow down here. All right, the eyebrow grows on top of the brow bone. The eyebrow hair is just another umbrella. Everything is an umbrella for the eye, everything. Everything just protects the eye from the horrible sun, okay? So when we have eyebrows that are not placed on top of the eyebrow bone, it means the student never thought for science, exactly. Everything is good for the sake of science. So when we have eyebrows that are, it means that the student's not thinking about the skeletal structure. So we have a brow bone bump, but an eyebrow all the way down here. Bad. That is bad. All right. Okay. And then we've got this tiny little eye. And then we've got a little droop. See that tiny little depression in the eyelid? And then you're trying to show us the inner corner. It would show to an extent, but it's not. It's different with every single eye, and we'll look at references for that. You're showing us this, which is the thickness of the eyelid, which I wouldn't say is the most important thing to prioritize. We're not seeing any kind of brow bone indication or some kind of weight to the brow bone that will cause that little butt crack right here, that crease. And let's talk about that crease for a second. When I look and judge, when I'm diagnosing, let's say I just had a student apply for private tutoring and I have to diagnose them, I look directly at the way they paint the eye crease. The eye crease is the culmination of all the form techniques you will ever use. It is both edge work and radial shading, blending, and when not to blend. It is the requirement of a line, which is a quicksand. It's a little trap for students because sometimes they just flat out leave a line and not do any kind of preparation or edge work for it. And it's contrast. And it's a small brush. Literally everything you need for edge work, which is small brush, contrast, and edges, and rendering, that's all rendering. Let's have the 3 ways to render. And then it's both kinds of edges, meaning an object suddenly abruptly finishing against the background, as well as the stacking of 2 objects. Everything you can name happens on the eye crease, which is why I spend so much time talking about it. But if you think butt crack, it's not going to be that scary. So let's make some corrections and do the before and after. So the little blurb, little moment of lecture is over. Now I'm just applying changes. And the changes I'm applying, hopefully you understand them because I just explained why I'm going to be making these changes there. Factors of function. Write that back, please. All right, so we've got the eyebrow placed and positioned. And I'm just going to look at the navigator as well as zoom out because what you've done here is a little bit... And beauty is a curse, really. When it comes to beauty, aesthetics, all of that crap, and photography, people do all kinds of crap with their eyebrows. And you as the student need to make sure you're choosing a natural reference. So when I say choose a natural reference, try not to choose eyebrows that are too plucked, eyes that are wearing too much makeup, face that has too much foundation on it, anything with magazine related photography, meaning there's bounce light everywhere, reflectors under and above and inside the fucking model. She's glowing like Dr. Manhattan. There's no shadows anywhere. It is the Chernobyl of finding references for students. It is a radioactive field. Don't go near some fashion photography unless it's like editorial or cool or artistic or something like that. But yeah, make sure that you are choosing good references. Maybe this artist found a reference of someone who underdrew their eyebrows or did something silly with their eyebrows. Please make sure you're choosing naturally occurring faces, not no Kardashians. No, I hate saying their disgusting name, but like, does anyone have that also feeling? It feels like I just said roach. You know what I'm saying? Like the same feeling I get when I say roach is when I say their horrid name. What am I talking about? So let's get this eye now and resize it. So this eyes can be, you know, this small, but let's resize it real quick so that it is both beautiful and functional. A small eye that is unnaturally small means the eyeball itself is small. And then you're just drawing Star Wars characters. Then you're just drawing Star Wars creatures. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more and tuck the eye inside and under the brow bone. Okay. So, in fact, we've recognized two things now as part of the reference. We've done the brow bone, the bump, and the eyebrows. So 2 umbrellas we've taken care of. We've tucked the eye in to the side and made sure that the eye is the right size for the skull and age. And now we're going to just take care of that little cross-section diagram that I drew for you. So if anybody wants free brushes, if I get some nice notes with the same diagrams I drew and better screenshots, all that shit, you guys can get all the brushes for free. So eyes from side view, it just means everything that from front view cut in half. Realistically cut in half, not front view eye cut in half. That's what you guys do sometimes. There's a little bit more to it than just cutting a front view eye in half. Just a little bit more. Just think butt crack, you know? Just make it silly, add a little story, and you won't forget all these factors of function. So, do you remember how from the side, what I did was, this is a big thing, so please listen. When I took the eyeball and cut it in half, okay, I didn't cut it in half. So this is that half, right? This is that half the orange, and this is the other half over here. We'll eat it later. I didn't do this, which from the side looks like this. I didn't end the eye lid on the edge of the eyeball. The edge of the eyeball is inside the skull. All right, so this is the hole. Probably 30 to 40% of the actual eyeball is outside of the skull. All right. So it just depends on the person really and their skull structure. Some people have eyes that pop out. Some people have eyes that are tucked all the way in and are really hooded. So the eyeball is not, so if you were to draw the full circle and go in and finish the circle, you're basically telling me that the eyeball from the side is stripped of flesh. Doesn't do this. It does this. Meaning there's a lot more inside. What am I doing? There's a lot more here. It's right at the edge of the bone. So if you have washed your hands, make sure you have washed your hands. Do not touch your face if you have not washed your hands for 20 minutes or use the hand sanitizer, please. If you have washed your hands and your hands are clean, touch the edges of your eyes, touch the edges of the corners of your eyes, the outer corners. And you see how it's directly pushing a little. The corners of your eyes are the bone of your head. All right, they're just, it's all bone all the way around into the temples. Give yourself a little temple massage too while you're at it. Okay, so this means that this section here, which is the edge of the bone, is where the eye ends. And then we've got, obviously it's not this bloated, it doesn't have this big a badonkadonk, but let's just, for the sake of the demonstration, the eyeball edge is inside. It's connected to the, what is it called? What is it called when it, what's that part of the brain that it's connected to? I'm just gonna make up a name. Medulla oblongata. The cerebral cortex, the cerebral oblongata, optic nerve. Yes, there, thank you. Jay. Okay, so then we have this thing connected in there. We got a lot of flesh, a lot of little doohickeys that help you move the eye around. It is a muscle as well. So the next connection would be to just stop this right around here somewhere. I think you've made it too big. I'm going to do it with liquefy. All right, so your eyelids before, if they're not a perfect straight line, it's going to look like your eye is deflated, okay? Tucked right in really nicely. And then we've got that V shape. So it's a very simple V shape. The weight of the brow bone falls upon that V shape. And then the eye ends where the bone ends. So because I liquefied even more, I have to just resize it. I think that works. The depression in the bone of the nose represents the eye socket all the way through. The eye socket is a big hole in the skull, and everything falls into that hole. It's like a cavity. Everything goes into it. It's like a little black hole of eye anatomy and eye gore. Optic nerve, I don't know, sounds made up. JK. Occipital. Okay, so the shadow under the eyelid eye bag with no edge, and it's going so low, so far out, it's just making me uncomfortable. Like, what did she slap black powder all over her eyes? Oops. What do you mean? Black powder? Do you mean, what do you mean, like an allergic reaction? Was that racist? I don't know. Okay, so what's next? The butt crack. So sometimes you can just, if you're lost and don't know how to draw the butt crack, just go ahead and draw the general outline for where everything goes, and then sketch it out. Figure out, you know, get your bearings. Sketch it out. There's no harm. You can use a line when it's helpful. And I'm also going to find the lower eyelid fat. Remember those green lines I drew with the lower eyelid fat? Right? The sides of the nose, no valley sharing, please. All right. And then the cheek sits in front. And then what we have is a combination of radial shading. I don't know why I'm not wearing my glasses. Like shadow near the black. Near the eye is whack. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right, so then we're going to block in and replace these lines with what? You in the back. What are we replacing the lines with? Wrong. Wrong. No. Edges. My God, 3 wrong answers? Do you guys even know me? Edges. Edges. You guys need to see me after class. So we're replacing the lines with edges. Where there was once a line, we just place in 2 brush strokes and replace them with an edge. This is called an edge, where 2 things meet but don't mix. An edge is where 2 things meet but don't mix. Write that down. All right, so I know a lot of this is basics to you, but I'm also teaching for the recording, and then some people might not understand some of the basics. Right? They just started drawing. They just bought a tablet yesterday, so that's why I'm teaching like that. Not trying to talk to you guys like kindergarten. Not that beginners are kindergartners. Man, fuck being politically correct. What am I doing? You're all kindergartners. You're all noobs. So we have some shadows here. Remember how the eyelid sticks out and catches light from front view? So let's draw a front view eye. What am I doing? All right, so front view eye, blah, blah, blah. And then we've got the eyelid. Do you remember how there's a shadow for the eyebrow right here? You know, under the eyebrow, and that's the arc. And then the upper eyelid gets a lot of light. Well, the equivalent of that gets brighter and brighter the higher you go. Do you remember our symmetry line, the blue line? Whoops. Well, our symmetry line is right in the center of that highest, most point of the eye. Meaning that if we reverse that and go back to the side view, we should naturally just block in the shadow. I'll put it on darken. Block in the shadow of the brow bone. Remember that shadow, that big blob? It's behind the side view eye. And then the edge in question, where 2 objects meet but don't mix, is right here. Just like that. Okay. All right, so we blocked in some areas here. We blocked in a shadow for the lower brow bone. We need to talk about eyebrows from the side view. I'll talk about that in a second. And then we've got the pupils in the iris from side view, which kind of move in. The pupils, so this black thing is this black thing of the eye, right? That's dished in. This is a bowl. It's like a bowl, right? You got your noodles. All right. So this base of the bowl, from the side view, looks like it's inside. All right. It's not going to be fully dished in. It's kind of closer to one edge than the next, because technically the flat side is back here, and this is all the see-through dome that sits on top. It's the lens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just move it a little bit closer. And why do I even bother drinking tea? Like, my blood pressure just fucking plummets. Everything is turning. Everything is just rotating. The monitor is just rotating right now. If so, when do you switch to the skin specific brushes? Do you block faces with the hard edge blendable brush? I use dry oil brush too. You switch to the skin and blending, where it says skin and blending when you start blending. It can be late game, it can be early blending. You can use those brushes. If you've ever watched my time-lapse videos on Patreon, the free ones, not on Patreon, they're on my channel now. I distribute them at the end of every year. I didn't do it for 2019 though. You can see that I switch later on to soft brush, to the blending brushes, way later. So let's get back to our reference and take a look. Let's get rid of all these diagrams. So you can see how the side of the eye is closer to, the black of the eye is closer to one edge. And then we've got that lens, that white line right here. That's the little white lens. And that's where all the light is caught. Okay, and then we've got the edge, the shadow, and the brightness of the brow, the upper eyelid. We've got the brow bone blended inward radially, so from bright. Just look at the slider. Look at the picker. Look at the picker. Look at how it gets darker, lower. That's radial shading. And then we've got the line arrangement, which is a tricky little thing. You actually do have to draw in a line. You got a little patch of dark, which sometimes can be discoloration, as much as the shadow of the brow bone still lingering. And then you've got high altitude, like you just showing where the lashes actually move right out and fly right out of the whole structure. I like umbrellas. So let's apply all of that. As soon as I start blending, things will start looking much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge that down. Oops. And flatten the lens just a touch more. Straighten it. It feels like they're looking this way. Really, the lens needs to be flattened like that. Which should look a little like this, and then the elevation of the lens right there, catching the light. Always block. Don't bother blending as you draw. If you blend while you draw, if you blend while you block, you have an illness, right? That's your diagnosis. You're sick. All right. You have a problem that needs to be fixed. There's no way around me saying that. If you blend while you block, you have an insecurity for how your drawings look at the moment. Your drawings are freaking you out. Your drawing doesn't look pretty, so you're like, I need to make it pretty right away, or else someone might judge me. Someone might walk in and see my fucked up drawing. Let me blend it so that I make it look good. As that, who here thinks like that? All of you do. I think like that, especially when I'm streaming. It's an illness. We all suffer from it. So don't blend while you block, for fuck's sake, because you're destroying your painting. How are you supposed to keep track of what it is that you're constructing if you're out here blending? You don't know what you've even constructed yet, so that you could blend it. Blending only happens once you are satisfied with the structure you've applied. Write that down now. All right. Okay, and then there's that little, oh no, someone might walk in, it looks like shit. You know, let me just quickly blend this out unnecessarily so that I, you know, can satisfy my insecurities, and, you know, at the you know, putting my painting in jeopardy and the success of my painting in jeopardy for my own insecurities, which will eventually be satisfied had I just waited and blended later so the painting can actually look good and I feel good about myself because I painted something well. Y'all just driving me crazy. Yes. All right, and so lashes get a little bit more sparse towards the edges. Now I'm just blocking in the cheekbone, moving down. You're probably looking at this and in your painting process, and you're just like, oh my god, this looks horrible. Let me start blending. Let me start blending. So the tail of the brow bone sits right towards kind of the edge of the eye, but a little bit further. So just do this and then move out a little bit towards the temple. We see the temple from side view. We see the side of the eye. If the quarter view was 3 sides of the face, side view is 1/2 of the face, or 2 out of 4 of the face that we can see. And then we've got a little water line catching some light. And then a little shadow. All right, and then some light on the eyeball. All right, so I'm just gonna open this reference here. Cancel color instead of having to jump back and forth. Flatten and then flip so that we're on the same. Her eyes are a little bit more pushed into her face, but that should help. And then there's one more little correction for yours, which is just like that. Just so that the upper and lower eyelids are aligned. So now we can smudge. Let me take one last look at this. Now we can smudge. Any questions? Only blend with the structures. Done. I'm in this speech and I accept it. Roastabrak. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for roasting you guys. It's constructive, I promise. So now we're smudging. I blend. We're smudging, my smudge brushes. All right, I'm blending anywhere where I'm not gonna blend this edge that I worked my ass off on. I'm gonna leave that alone. And blending in the cheek. This image is too large. Image size 5,000. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. And so I'm blending away this. There's no stacking here. I'm keeping some of that shadow. Every eye is different. Some eyes don't have that pigmentation. Some eyes have less lower eyelid. Every eye is different. And then that patch is just, it just stops at the inner corner. Do you see how we don't see the inner corner of the eye? But because you guys have drawn side view eyes for so long, you ended up needing that because you guys have drawn front view eyes for so long, you ended up needing that side corner, both sides. All right, so now I'm going to bring in my contrast. So I've got contrast on the lashes, which project outward, have a higher altitude than anything else. Let me just, I'm not sure if she's wearing mascara, probably not. Lower eyelids also have lashes. You see how the lower eyelid lashes also cast a shadow? And then we've got the formation of that line right here, which we can now apply now that we radially shaded. There are more careful ways of radial shading. I'll cover those in a minute. And then we've got, I think you guys overdo the inner, like specular light way too much. You guys really overdo it. We've got the shadow. The lashes are working. Remember, the function of the lashes is to cast a shadow to help the eye. So we can just cast that shadow and we will be meeting that functional requirement that, you know, nature provided the lashes because of that the same functional requirement. The same reason nature designed the lashes is the same reason you're drawing it. All right, now this is that pushing it a little bit further technique for the radial shading. Watch closely. Full black, low feed opacity, full feed color on a new layer. Brush stroke number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, and I'm shrinking my brush as I descend into the crease. As we descend, I'm not going to say it. And then I'll show you the difference, right? So it feels more sculpted. And we do the exact same thing for the bright. The only difference is that it's pure white feed now. Brush stroke number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the way and you can redo it too. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes I put my opacity super low on purpose. And we, what was I saying? Yeah, we climb the radial shading toward the light source. That's the kind of direction we're moving in. So before, after. Okay, and I'm just gonna limit where it goes. Just like that. And the same thing for the lower eyelid. It's also casting a shadow radially. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just going to repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like so. Now that bulbous shape. You got to be crazy to do what I do. Blocking brushes, cloud, strife, sexy, and mopey. Pick up and hold. Yeah. Smudge brush is like, why can't we all just get along? Exactly. Alright, and then I'm just gonna blend in, oopsie, I'm gonna blend in these areas here. What's going on? Oh, right. And then there's just the general fact that if it's this recess, the upper eyelid is not going to be brighter than the forehead, right? The whole eyeball itself is in shadow, which I like to do radially just to make sure. And then hair is a little bit, just now that I'm this far, I can see hair is a little bit darker because it's thicker. There's more hair there. But the upper eyelid is still generally lighter than the crease, than the socket, which is what's important. And then we've got some shadow here that I'd like to apply. I overblend like hell, oh my gosh. How can you be so precise while zoomed out? Because I'm using a desktop tablet. I'm using like 1-to-1 ratio, and I just practice. And then there's some really, really important edges here that we need to make sure we've got. So the eyeball itself, the lens in front of the socket needs to be sharper. So I erase with blocking. That has to be sharp, really sharp, so I clean that up. And then there's this one. I'm just making sure all values move in one direction. And then I'll do the top as well. So it looks like this whole class is about the side view, but I will look at that piece as well because it's not so much a lesson. Okay, so for the artist who did this piece, congratulations on starting it. Congratulations on having the balls to try something that difficult. It's really good, and I'm proud of you. But I'm not proud of you skipping, you know, your studies or trace over diagrams. Trace over diagrams are an amazing way to get acquainted with the form without having to draw, without the pressure of drawing. Now, doesn't that sound great? Doesn't that sound like a good deal? No pressure of drawing, but all the anatomical exploration? Ooh. Right, so make sure you guys are trying that. And then I'm just going to, sometimes I skip certain anatomy, like for instance the inner corner. I could have done this with a little bit more form, but sometimes I don't really stress too much about this section over this intersection. I could have just done a little bit of shadow here, but I feel like I want to draw attention towards where the focal is anyway, because we are technically looking at something, one thing at a time. If you aren't working with references, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're studying. You're just learning to draw well the same thing you draw badly is what happens when you don't use references for your entire education. You're learning how to draw the same thing badly, but better, but still badly. You know what I'm saying? Why not supplement what you don't know with some knowledge and get better still, and technique gets faster, and I mean workflow gets faster, technique gets sharper, and everybody wins. Use references, stick to your community, use form, better your technique. These are all the cardinal rules of why your drawings suck. If you guys remember that video. Now I'm just like bringing in some really mild distance texture just for the lashes. For the eyebrows, please blend your eyebrows, y'all. Eyebrows don't just grow in formation. Nothing really does in nature, especially hair, since it's so sporadic and unyielding. Use larger brush strokes from a distance to create the texture of hair. And I'm just cleaning this up. So I'm not sure if a before and after is necessary, since, you know, we got the idea. Sometimes I feel pain doing the before and after, because I feel like some of you see it as, you know, embarrassment for the students. And I've never really talked about that, you know, how embarrassing it might be for the person watching. But I'm not here to, you know, helping the egos of snowflakes. And none of you are snowflakes. If you guys were snowflakes, you guys wouldn't be posting stuff to Critique Hour. So I'm not calling y'all snowflakes. But there are snowflakes who don't post to Critique Hour, who still, you know, talk shit about the class. Anyway, so I don't like doing the before and after. I'm not here to so much entertain. I know y'all like it. So let's, there's a lot more I want to fix. The upper brow, I mean the upper bridge needs some light. I want to fix some blocking around the face, but the side view has pretty much been corrected here. Yeah, the nipple twisting face one. All right. So this is educational. I do have, you know, reason because the rotation mostly is what you missed, which is what I was diagramming before. Let me make it the right size. Okay, image size 3000, paste. All right, so you were like, the eyeball had a neck and it twisted its neck to the side while the head and its own neck in its own universe twisted from the side, and we only saw the side view of the head. The eyeball and the head were on different rotations, even though they're supposed to be on the same, and the eyeball is pretty much fixed to the head. All right. I quite enjoy the comedy, makes this class so unique. Oh, okay, good, thank you. You like the before and after, good. Just learning ZBrush and Blender a few days ago, and it does help with a lot of visualizing. It's also really fun and a useful skill to have if you want to get hired. Yes, I've always assigned, for my private students, I always assign sculpting, actually going out and getting clay, so that they can get a tangible experience with the anatomy. Before, after. So we fully shifted the eye to the side. We met all of the functional requirements, and we pretty much addressed all rotation issues. And now this is a functional, passable sketch of the side view. Let's move on. Before I move on, I'd like to congratulate this 14-day challenger for their success. The 14-day challenge is a 14 days in a row, if you time allows, 14 paintings at least. You can have 3 days in between each one. It doesn't have to be daily, but if you can do daily, go for it if you're better. In a row, the same face drawn over. Requirement is you get a critique between each day, and the success is just amazing. You guys always just do so well. Here, the gender, age, and anatomy is really confusing. He's got droopy grandpa ears, baby eyes, Azula eyebrows, a baby nose, thin boy lips. Really confused. Here you have a bit more of a precise representation of the gender. No more droopy grandma ears. And there are some issues here and there with the structure. It's not perfect. And I would be remiss not to tell you exactly what they are, but I'm not going to paint over because I got to jump to the other piece now. They are the extra wide septum that you guys, I don't know what, there's bees going around stinging everyone in the septum, making them all swell up. Just pinch that with liquefy tool and just stop with the thick septums, all right? The nostrils are the stars of the show, not the septum. The mouth is a little bit wide. I'd be surprised to see what her mouth looks like when she smiles. If this is neutral, this is huge. But there are people in the real world who have eyes, mouths like that. She looks like she's looking up this way. I'd rather a front facing so that it's not accidental every time you're making someone look up. It just means that you have to close this space here so the edge of the eye, the iris meets the lower eyelid. I wouldn't say this is the best you can do for the brow bone. This I do have to paint over really quickly. You need to show how the brow bone is cylindrical, meaning the upper half of the brow bone is in some light. Even under the eyebrow, you can erase away to get back the eyebrow. All right, so that it actually reads better. You've got more light on the edges of the eyebrow than you should. Fix that. That's part of the temple. Why would it get any light? Okay. Then you've got a little bit more of that upper eye fat that everybody has to a degree. Radially introduced, of course. All right, so it feels less hollowed out. I'm doing a really quick job of this. It's a bit messy. And then I'm not sure what you're doing here, but the shadow I think is a bit too strong for the upper eyelids. But congrats on this success. You're doing so well. Make sure that you're being more strict. And though it is reference free, once you are done, you can at least say, I know what it is that I need references with, because yeah, it's generally reference free for 3/4 view. you know, I know where I need to go to supplement my lack of anatomical knowledge. The eye crease doesn't end where the lashes end. Remember, the lashes are their own thing. They're like a, I don't know what the hell they are. I don't know what to compare them to. It's umbrellas. All right, so hopefully that'll get you started on where to go next. Careful with radial shading. Careful with outlining the nose and the nostrils. You're basically outlining. And careful with shadows on the side of the head and excessive contrast. Make sure the background is brighter. But congrats. Okay, so for this piece, there's a lot going on that you've done wrong. The first thing is when you do a side-by-side like this, make sure the head is the right size. So that should be good. And then some stuff you have, you're working beside a reference for a reason, guys. Just follow the reference. I mean, you presented it reference side by side, but I don't think that's how you worked. This is how you should work. Because how are you supposed to get a proper estimate of what you're painting? I mean, what is the model leaving the room every time, you know, between brush strokes? No, the model stays until you're done. So keep the model close. Iris and pupils are really, really different sizes. This is minuscule. I might need to do that from a distance, a larger brush. It's tiny. Copy your reference. You picked it up for a reason. Your contrast is really dirty, and you've got these brush strokes here that look like you just did this all day. Man, get out, get over here, get to the front of the class. Where's the ruler? Large brush stroke, flat values. That's it. It's just literally one value here, one value here, one value here. The rest is blending. Do not do this tiny brushstroke business. You're zoomed out for a reason. You have your reference here for a reason. All right, so I'm just gonna shift this over. You picked this reference. You are drawn to this face because you want to duplicate it. There's something about it that's pleasing that you want to, you know, you memorize, you want to bring in later. Let me correct the view so that she's looking at us. And there's a squint. I have to correct the pupils after. This is these brush strokes that you guys are doing are not acceptable. I'm not sure where you picked these up, what time-lapse, crappy-ass time-lapse video you watched on YouTube. I don't know, you know, who told you these are good habits to have small brush stroke for a forehead? What? You know, like, what does that sound like? It makes sense? Ask a makeup artist. Hey, makeup artist, why yes, would you use a small eyeshadow brush for applying foundation to the forehead? No, I would not. I would use a large fan thick brush to apply makeup to the forehead. I would use the same brush here and here. A large space requires a large brush. It's common sense. It spans over different schools of thought. There's no need for this grain. This is ugly. It doesn't make your work look painterly. No, the leftovers of large brush strokes are what's painterly. It's so difficult trying to, you know, replace these little areas because the brush is too large for this stage in the painting, but it's not too large for later stages in the painting. I hope the spanking stings. I hope it's stinging. I hope it's red. All right, what else? What else? Look what we got here. We got value sharing. Larger brush strokes that shrink the closer we get to more concentrated areas. Oh no, the painting looks so bad. Let me start blending now. If you find yourself doing that, don't do it. Stop. Zoom out. How else are you going to, figure out what it is, the structure? Like I said, I need a new layer. How else are you going to quantify this structure? How else are you going to capture the same amount of anatomy? It's not, even the reference itself has no need for that grain. Those pieces here. You guys, this isn't hard. This isn't something only Istebrak can do because she's drawn for a long time. No, this is just zooming out. It's just going to the little square bracket icon and making the brush larger. It's not a change of thought, though it may require a change of how you are as a human being, meaning not freak out, just calm down, don't freak out. It's okay. The painting looks a little fucked up right now. That's good fucked up. That's not bad fucked up. Bad effed up is, I've met my F word quota, so now I have to start saying the F word. Bad effed up is when you finish the painting and it looks nothing like the painting and your structure is all off. When you zoom out, look, we zoomed out. Look at the core shadow we can now see of the lips. Look at that. Interesting. We should have just stayed zoomed out the whole time. That way we would have seen all the core shadows that we need. Who'd have thought? You are both, this is why it's hard, because you are both the construction worker and the overseer. You are both the ant and the supervisor, right? The ant worker, the little worker ant, and the supervisor. So it's hard to embody both roles, but you have to learn to do that if you want to manage all this anatomy. Who cares about the detail in the eyes until it's time to apply that detail? And look at that. I missed my brush stroke. That's how I knew it was time to zoom in. Hey, Istebrak. Hey, Istebrak. How do we know when it's time to zoom in? When you can't do this anymore. When you can't do the details. Then you zoom in until you regain control. All right. She's got slightly like bedroom eyes. And then this culmination of brushstrokes is beautiful. This is what's painterly. Not okay. So who's the artist behind this? The fact that you're here today is an amazing thing. You came here, you submitted your work. I shred it up to pieces in front of the whole class, and you are going to get better because of it. This isn't a glory critique for me. I don't glory critique. There's really no glory in sitting here with my AC off, sweating my ass off, okay? There might be, glory later on. Just the fact that I, did a good critique. There's no glory in me showing you the mistakes. The glory is in when you learn. And so it's not a glory trip for me. If you're disappointed in yourself, don't be, because you're on the right path. You know how to finish a painting at least, and you know how to commit to a painting. That's a wonderful thing. You know how many people start studies and don't finish them? So when we have all these mistakes here, it's mistakes that you can build off of. See how I zoomed in? I didn't know what I was going to do from zoomed out in order to approach that detail. So I just zoomed in to apply that edge. He said, are you doing it for an ego stroke or are you doing it to learn? What is? My husband said something to me when I was fretting about my schoolism class. Yeah, in other words, mess it up good so the instructor can properly help you fix it. Absolutely. Your husband's very wise. Kind of like me, very wise. All right, so from now I can just start applying some basic shit. As for likeness, I've done classes on that. Go look it up. If likeness is something you want, likeness it comes hand in hand with anatomy sometimes, which is why I would say it's a little more controversial to say don't worry about likeness. But I wouldn't say worry about likeness if you're still having large brush to small brush technique and discipline. I would say, you know what, can we just get you to use the right brush size before we worry about you drawing an exact face? All right. Again, if you were my student, I wouldn't be grading you on likeness or assigning likeness studies. All right, and then now I'm just going to apply some of those required edges here. And now what do? Now we blend. So where we blend is where there is no stacking or meeting of two separate surfaces. We blend where it is the same surface. So the same surface here on the head. But we don't blend over here because the nose and the cheek don't touch in that area. We blend the cheek with a large brush because it's a large expanse of space and it is the same surface. But we don't blend the inner and outer corners because it's a stacking of two surfaces, the upper lip on the lower lip. And there is a lot left to do. I do like to display the likeness. I do like to show how to get that likeness. So same surface here, but not here because that is the shifting of a surface into another one. Even though it's the same surface, it changed at an angle. Do you guys get what I just did? What were the rules I just listed for when to blend and when not to blend? So I'm zooming out so I can really catch those bodies of shadow, so I can really see what I'm doing. It's 6:30. The gym can wait. Pretty long class today, eh? God damn it, what am I doing? Always blend out the lips. Same surface for the chin. Need to work on that lash line. Eyebrow hair gets blended. This whole surface is sharing the same shadow. I kind of oversized the eyes, but that's okay. I'll fix them in a second. And then I'm gonna get soft brush now in a new layer and just start applying those bodies of shadow from a distance. So the nose. So I'm pretty zoomed out, eh? And you guys need to do that too. To stop this Cupid's bow. It's over. Present doesn't really do that in the reference. You guys really love your Cupid's bows. That's another thing I need to start. You know, I need to start a crusade so that you guys just stop with the Cupid's bow oversizing and darkening because it just looks like a mustache. Going back to soft brush. Maybe it's a good thing I did a long class today because Thursday I might not do a class. My deck parts are coming in. Yes, deck parts. and I have to probably spend the whole day in the backyard trying to figure out how the hell we're gonna, you know, prep the deck for, or prep the earth for all of that. So might be a cancellation this Thursday. I am sorry. We've been waiting for these parts, that lumber for months. All right, and then darkening that. Still a bit messy with the eyes. New layer. And I'm just gonna find a nice median But yeah, it's still in the, you know, I'm still not sure if I will cancel because it just depends on the group of people helping. But most likely will not have a group of people available. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna go into liquefy and just clean up the gaze. So that she looks like she's looking in the same direction. And the tip for that is just get one eye to look in the right direction. And the other eye, make sure that at the center of your liquefy brush is the pupil, and then shift it to match. So there's a lot more to do for this painting, but I hope the edges have really helped. And the next thing I do sometimes is just find those, go back to full opacity, and just apply those edges where they're needed, those highlighter points. It's too bright. Okay, so make sure you guys are blocking. Make sure you guys are blending at the right time. And work with references when you need to supplement your knowledge. Stick to your reference. Don't just ditch it halfway through. Don't be a ditching ditcher. All right, the eyes are much bigger in this version. And then there's, of course, the lash line, which I can probably pull off with, oh, did you freeze? Stupid cow. All right, so we're getting a lot closer to the reference, even from the zoom out, and we're capturing the right anatomy. It's not blended yet because I've completely run out of time for the day, but before, you got that penciled in look. So stick to the reference, copy it, work large to small, capture the right contrast. You're picking up information and saving it in your little noggin. So make sure you're copying your reference. Stop leaving it and doing your own thing with the eyes, you know, and the eyebrows. Leave the, look. They need to be blended. They need to be general shapes. Eyebrows cannot be penciled in like that. All right, before, after. There's still more blending to do, but again, I ran out of time. Thank you everyone for coming today. If you learned something today and appreciate these classes, please consider joining me on Patreon, even as $1 patron. If everyone on the Reddit joined as $1, then we're promising the longevity and posterity of the channel. If you want to submit your work for critique, you saw these people's art on my Photoshop just now, you want to submit it, go to the Reddit community, istebrak.com, and click on the Reddit icon here. And join, if you want to join in on the challenges I announced at the start of the class, you may do so here. You have to join first, though. That's where everyone's submitting their current challenge submissions. Look at that. That looks fucking amazing. There's more. If you scroll down, you can see more little thumbnails and versions. There was a really cool one I saw earlier. But a lot of 14-day challengers submit their stuff here for critique. If you're not critiquing, you're not going to get one. Make sure you're providing critique, even if they're better than you. There's still something you're seeing that they may not have seen at all or even thought of. Even when I'm streaming and I'm painting, people see shit I don't even see. So make sure that you guys are critiquing each other. And then there's Patreon if you guys want to join here. I just sent out apprentice assignments if you guys want to join me there. Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate your presence during the live streams. I'll see you guys on Thursday, hopefully, if not next Tuesday. Bye everyone.